Do you know the story of SV40?
No.
So SV40 was, in the early polio vaccines, they were growing the polio virus on a substrate of masticated monkey kidneys.
African green monkeys.
Oh yeah, they were using African green monkeys. They were also, there's other forms of the vaccine. Stanley Kopensky's was using bonobo chimpanzees, which there's a whole book about. That's where the HIV virus made the leap into human beings. But anyway, what they didn't know at that time, because you couldn't see viruses, you can't find them. They're too small. There was no microscopes at that time.
I also remember DNA was discovered in 53. This is going on in 50, 51, 52. So the state of molecular biology at that time was what I would call rudimentary.
Right. So what they didn't realize, these monkeys had hundreds and hundreds of viruses that nobody knew what would happen if they jumped into human beings. And now there was a very, very famous scientist who was the most award-winning scientist at that time in NIH, whose name was Bernice Eddy. And I think she actually knew Mary Stewart.
No, not only did she know her, you're making me very happy, Bobby, because guess what? The fact that you know Bernice, because I'm going to tell you, the guy Kevin McKiernan I just told you about, I tweeted at him yesterday. I said, when I talk to Bobby tomorrow, I'm going to make you as famous as Bernice Eddy because her career was destroyed for telling the truth. She's the one, and he'll know this story better. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I get excited when you get right there. Marcus Hilleman, who was a leading researcher for Merck, gets all the credit.
He invented the MMR vaccine.
Right. He gets all the credit, though, for this story that Bobby is laying out. And
just to tell you kind of briefly what it is, she discovered that there's all these viruses in it. And
1955.
Right. And one of the virus, she called them simian viruses, so SV. And the 40th one she discovered was a virus that was extraordinarily oncogenic, and it was carcinogenic.
It didn't cause cancer in the African green monkeys, but to date, as of 2023, anytime SV40 is in another vector, it causes cancer.
Yeah, in fact, they use it in laboratories that are studying tumors. They use it to induce tumor growth. So you give it to a guinea pig and it will sprout tumors like a mushroom field. It's the most carcinogenic stuff that they know of. At least that when I was looking at it, it was
absolutely still the truth.
Why was this research happening in the 50s? What were they trying to do?
They were making polioviruses on the substrate. So the way that you grow a vaccine.
Why though?
To get to make a vaccine.
I see.
When you mass produce a vaccine, you need to grow the culture, and you have to grow it either on human tissue, which is hard to get, and legal problems and ethical and moral problems, or you can. And also there are disease problems, because if the human has a disease, it could get in. The vaccine is not pure. A lot of that monkey material is getting into the vaccine, and the viruses were getting into the vaccine. And Bernice Eddy, right before they distributed the vaccine, there was 98 million doses about to be distributed. She goes to her bosses at NIH and said, you can't do it because it's filled with this carcinogen that's going to give everybody cancer.
She injected, just so you know, she injected the monkeys with the Cutter vaccine, and they got polio. But here's where the story...
that is kind of another part of that story.
Well, let me tell you the part that I want you to hear. So guess who is a big investor in Cutter Pharmaceuticals? Alton Oshner. So what did he do? He got the entire medical staff in 1951 in the amphitheater, brought his 2 grandchildren in, and injected his granddaughter and grandson.
And they died.
And the grandson died of polio 5 days later. And then guess what? The granddaughter got polio. She survived. So who tells me this story is John Osher, the guy that I told you before.
It's an unbelievable story.
Bernice Eddy reports this to her bosses at NIH, and they
ignore her.
They tell her to shut her mouth.
Wow.